Hello kids, welcome to your revision class for grade 8 science. Um, we are going to cover the first unit, which is photosynthesis, in which we have covered 4 subtopics, which is photosynthesis. Topic 1.1, topic 1.2 is more about photosynthesis. We'll go into the details of how this is being done at a cellular level. And then in topic 1.3 we're going to see how the carbon cycle in the environment works around, and finally we will close this unit with the last topic, which is topic 1.4, climate change. We'll see how the whole carbon cycle and the climate are related to one another, right? So let's get into it. This is topic 1.1, which is photosynthesis. When we talk about photosynthesis, we understand that photosynthesis is a process in which these plants or organisms fix their own food, right? Photo, and then we're going to see what does the word synthesize mean, right? So photo means a light, right? And synthesize means to create, right? Or generate or produce, right? So many words can be used for this, right? So this is what photosynthesis collectively means, right? To create something using the sunlight, right? So in the process of photosynthesis, we would understand that this needs to be done by organisms, which we call as done by photoautotrophs, right? Or the organisms that have the capacity to fix their own carbon, right? Let's call this as organisms which can fix their own carbon, and by carbon we mean food, right? So they can make their own food as well. They're not dependent upon other organisms to feed them, right? So this is done by several organisms. We have a few examples for this, right? For example, we have plants, right? They are photoautotrophs. Then we have algae, right? They are also photoautotrophs. And then we have several type of microorganisms that are also photoautotrophs, right? And they rely on the process of photosynthesis to make their own food. They do not rely on other organisms to generate the food for them, right? So this is so far what we know about photosynthesis, right? So now let's get into the detail how it really works, right? So the reaction, what really happens, right? So what we see is that carbon dioxide, right, is taken in by the plants, and it is mixed with other ingredients like water and minerals, right? And it is converted into food, right, plus oxygen, right? So oxygen goes into the air, and we need as a condition we need sunlight to make this work, right? This is the energy which is taken for this reaction to occur. So it's an endothermic reaction, since it is taking energy from the outside to do to proceed with the reaction, right? So over here we have reactants, right? And at this side of the arrow we have products, right? And in terms of products, we say that the food is usually sugars, right? Like glucose. We usually call them as carbohydrates, right? So there it could be anything like fruit, leaves, or whatever way these plants are storing the food, right? Since we can see over here in this diagram, the sunlight is taken by these leaves, right? The leaves also absorb carbon dioxide from the air. The roots are going to, let me just draw this, right? Here we go. I need to add another pen with yellow tone. All right. So we see that water goes up, right, from this side, and the air is taken in. So inside the leaf, this photosynthesis is happening, right? And this is the reaction which is happening inside the leaf, right? So you'll call this inside the leaf, right? So this is the basic idea behind photosynthesis, how the photosynthesis works, what kind of organisms, right, examples over here. So what kind of organisms do photosynthesis? We've got three major categories, right? Plants, algae, other microorganisms like bacteria, and many other types of microorganisms. They rely on photosynthesis, right? So this is the basic idea of photosynthesis. Now let's get into the second topic, which is the further detail of the process of photosynthesis, right? So over here we have the leaf anatomy, right? This is how the leaf looks like. If I let's say I have a leaf, I cut it into a layer, right? Let's just say I'm just going to draw a leaf, right? This is actually the petiole, right? Petiole is the little stick that holds the leaf, and this is called the blade, right? The blade, or the leaf area, the surface, the whole leaf thingy, right? And these veins are further distributed inside the leaf, smaller ones, right? Delivering minerals from this. So when we take this tiny little portion of this, so this is the whole thing that you're looking at, right? The whole thing. And it can be divided into several layers, which is cutile, which is the top waxy surface, right? Right, so this is the waxy surface of the leaf, right? Shiny surface, right? Then we have the epidermis, right? It's a cell layer that is the top layer, right? It's the top layer. Then we have palisade mesophils, right? Does most of photosynthesis, right? And this is the layer where majority of the photosynthesis reaction is going to occur. Then we have the spongy mesophyll. This is the lower half of the leaf, right? This is the upper half. Let's call this as upper half, right? And then we have the lower half. We'll have to scroll down a little bit, right? So spongy mesophils, and what they do does little photosynthesis, right? And then we have the lower epidermis, which contains the stoma, these tiny little holes through which the CO2 goes in and O2 comes out, right? So in this, sunlight comes here, right? Let's put sunlight here, and then minerals are are taken in, right? Minerals over here, minerals are here, right? Transported by these veins, minerals, and it's delivered to these layers, right? Over here the photosynthesis is going to take place. This is the place where the whole photosynthesis process is going to take place. It does occur in these spongy mesophils, but since these are very low, little in quantity, so very little amount of photosynthesis occurs over here, right? Lower epidermis contains stoma, right? So this is the lower half. Now for you people, for you kids, I've collected this microscopic image of the actual cell, right? This is from a leaf. Over here, these this green thing is actually the cell wall, right? These are mesophils, right? This whole is actually the whole thing is the mesophyll, and sorry, let me get this right. This is the chlorophyll, this whole structure is actually mesophyll, right? Containing these small little chlorophyll pockets, right? And this is the vacuole where the food is being stored, right? And over here we have the nucleus, right? That does all the operations, right? And this gray color is the cytoplasm, right? So this is what we have over here, right? In a mesophyll cell, right? This whole is a mesophyll cell. All of these are, right? I've colored only one for you to understand. And once we look deeper into this, chloroplast, right? These tiny green portions we call, which are filled with this chlorophyll. Uh, they are the actual, cellular objects which are doing the photosynthesis. So this is one, chloroplast inside these, green things, right? These green objects that I've marked, and over here the sunlight is absorbed by these cells, and then it is converted, into O2, and the energy is provided by this process to operate the Calvin cycle, or what we call as the carbon cycle, in which carbon dioxide is converted into sugar with the energy that is generated by this photosynthesis process, right? As a result, O2 is given out. So over here we have reactants, again would be CO2 and water, right? And products would be energy or food, right? What we call as, along with O2, right? So this is how the photosynthesis is taking place inside these mesophyll cells, right? This whole image is actually a tiny little magnification of these pellucid mesophyll cells that we see over here, in which we have these green chloroplast, and which is filled with chlorophyll, right? And the chlorophyll is responsible for doing the photosynthesis, right? So let's call this responsible for reaction, right? This is the chemical compound that does this reaction, right? This whole thing, this chloroplast, is filled with chlorophyll, this green material we see over here, right? It's filled with chlorophyll that does this whole process of photosynthesis, right? So this is the detail of the photosynthesis process. Moving on into the carbon cycle, and from here we are going to review the microscopic view of the photosynthesis, as well as the larger carbon cycle process that we see. We do know that the carbon in the system works in a way that the CO2 which is available in the atmosphere is coming through respiration and is consumed by photosynthesis. There are more things responsible for CO2. So we are going to differentiate those reactions, right? We'll see that the process and the products that are there, right? What kind of processes cause what kind of products, right? First of all, we have respiration, right? And respiration is being done by animals as well as plants at night, in which the products are CO2, right? Is released into the atmosphere, right? And pure carbon dioxide. And then we have photosynthesis, right? It's actually P not a B, right? Synthesis. In photosynthesis, carbohydrates are produced, like glucose and sugar, right? Then we have decomposition, right? Decomposition is a process that also breaks down living organisms and convert those into CO2, right? As well as some of the decomposition is responsible for fossil fuel, right? Generation from fossils. So these are two processes in which, and later on we have combustion, right? And that's the end result of this fossil fuel being used, right? uh, and that also generates CO2 and water, right? And water. So that's how carbon is, even from the fossil fuel, is recycled into the atmosphere. And there, I mean, any industrial processes that use combustible materials, they produce carbon dioxide and release it into the atmosphere. So this picture actually summarizes the whole carbon cycle that I just explained. You should be able to identify any kind of process, right, into this. And once we call these, right, we can call this process, right, as uh, carbonization, right? So there are many other ways in which carbonization can occur. Decomposition by decomposers like fungi, mushrooms. That's one thing, but there are many more microorganisms and other processes that does the carbonization, including the fossil fuel development, right? How the fossil fuel is generated by the dead organisms, deep into the earth. So this is the carbon cycle. And this, in which photosynthesis is actually one tiny little detail into this whole process, which is happening over here. As you can see, this is this photosynthesis and the whole carbon cycle that we studied. This is respiration, right? Then there are organic carbons as well released into the air. Let's say, decay of other objects, and root respirations, right? Plants, as I said, also respire. Then we have emissions from the factories that burn fuel. Then we have transportation that is burning fuel. All of that fuel comes from the fossil fuel, which is again the decomposition of the dead organisms, right, or the waste product, right? So this is the whole carbon cycle, right? Now moving into our last topic, which is climate change. So first of all, we need to understand what is climate, right? So what is climate? As you can see in this picture over here, that climate is everything except the sun, right? Except the sun and the volcanoes. So that means the clouds, the atmosphere that we see, the cryosphere, the colder regions, the ice coverings, the land that we see, and the oceans, that we have. All of that makes up the climate system, right? That means whatever is around us, the environment which is covered by this gas atmosphere, right? This is the climate, right, as a whole for the earth. Now over here, we need to understand the difference between climate and weather. We need to understand that weather is a localized state of atmosphere, right? How that climate is being maintained at shorter terms. Let's say over the course of a day, it rains in the morning, but it might not rain in the night. So that's how the weather may change so quickly. It is compared in terms of hours or days, right, or even in minutes. But compared to that, when we talk about climate, we're talking about long-term changes, long-term patterns of the weather. And let's say if some area has a tropical climate, right, it's a rainforest, then we'll study how the rain forest or the rain frequency is changing over the years. It may not be much of a concern when we talk about what is happening in the day and what is happening at night, but we'll be concerned with long-term patterns. Let's say the overall change in temperature of the zone over 20 to 30 years, right? That could be caused by global warming, right? So why climate change is important? We understand that we're currently facing the problem of global warming, right? So let's start what we know, right? Global warming, and that's something which I guess everyone so far, even every child knows about, that this is global warming, the increase in temperature, right? Increase in temperature of climate, right? And why is that? It's happening due to specific gases that hold up the energy. We call those as greenhouse gases, right? We'll call this caused by greenhouse gases, right? So when we talk about greenhouse gases, these are like CO2, right? Like ozone, and then we have methane, right? And then many more gases like these, which have this greenhouse effect, which is uh, let's talk about greenhouse effect. So what is greenhouse effect, right? It is the idea that, let's say this is let's go to the diagram more acutely. If you look at this diagram over here, right, when the sunlight comes to the earth, it passes through the atmosphere, but once it reaches the surface of the earth, some amount of it is reflected back, right, in the form of infrared, right, or radiated later on, but some of it is reflected, back and forth, re-emitted and re-entered into the atmospheric system. It's not able to escape the atmospheric cloud that shrouds the earth, right? So those gases, when they increase in quantity, it becomes much more reflective in nature. It allows the sunlight to come in, but it doesn't allow much of this sunlight, or the heat energy from the sunlight to go out into the space in the form of radiation. And this is caused by the greenhouse gases. These gases, when they increase in quantity in the atmosphere, they cause a lot of radiation, in which ozone is actually important. This helps prevent some harmful radiation coming from the sun to even penetrate into the earth. But compared to that, we have CO2 and methane, which are having an adverse effect onto the climate, in which the increase in CO2, especially over here, is responsible for global warming, as CO2 is released by, as I said, combustion and respiration. When the factories are releasing a lot more carbon dioxide, and the plants are being cut down, so this quantity of CO2 is increasing dramatically, which is causing the gradual increase in the temperature of these climate change that is happening in different tropical regions, or different regions. Even in the Antarctic, the temperatures are going up, and we see that the Antarctic region is now undergoing very disastrous meltdowns, right? So this is the idea behind global warming and the climate change. There are several factors that we have discussed in the class that result in climate change, right? We compared climate and weather as well. So I hope I'm able to help you revise this content for your upcoming topical test. Now, as of fun, I actually had this image that I wanted to discuss, right? Uh, this is a micrograph, right? It's a micro image, or micro photographs, in which you can see the structure of the leaf, right, where photosynthesis is happening. So this is the place where the photosynthesis is happening. This is a palisade mesophyll, right? And this is the central vein of the leaf, right? These are the spongy mesophyll cells, as you can see. And over here you can see stoma, right? This is the stoma. Let me write this, right? So this is the stoma. This is it's already written. This is mesophyll layer, right? And then this is the spongy mesophyll. And this over here is the vein that contains the xylem and the phloem. Xylem contains water, and phloem brings out the minerals, right? This is for water, and phloem is for minerals, right? Minerals, glucose, and other stuff, right? So xylem only contains brings out and this layer at the bottom is the lower epidermis of the leaf. And how we know that this is the lower one? Because there are these stoma on the lower epidermis of the leaf. And on the top, how we know is the top leaf. As you can see, there's this tiny little layer, as you can see, a yellowish layer on the top, that is the upper cuticle, right? The cuticle layer of the leaf, right? The waxy layer, or the shiny layer, right? I hope I was able to help you in revision of this topic. If you have any questions, you may post in the comments, or we may be able to discuss those in the classroom as well. Thank you for your time.